In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI. I am your host, Emmanuel Rose. Today, I'm happy to introduce to you Douglas Abbott. Doug is the founder of Contrasted, a cutting-edge B2B marketing agency designed for the AI-driven landscape. With a rich background in performance marketing, he's on a mission to help businesses transcend vanity metrics, focusing instead on real pipeline growth. Doug, I would imagine that real pipeline growth is a good thing to be focused on.
Always. Thanks for having me, Emmanuel.
Yeah, you bet. How did you get started in the world of pay-per-click and B2B marketing?
Yeah, my first job out of college was a pay-per-click agency back in the kind of mid-2000s. So been at it for a while. I started in B2C and then kind of over the years just worked across a bunch of different channels across B2C and B2B, and really liked a lot of what B2B had to offer in terms of matching up someone with a problem with how your product fixes that problem.
Love it. Yeah. And then as happens with the shiny object syndrome in marketing, we end up seeing a lot of terrible marketing that goes on every one of these little bubbles. And I think AI has exacerbated the terrible marketing because the tools are so available and relatively easy to use. So then I always go back to, let's look at the fundamentals of marketing and understand we're selling things to humans, and how do humans like to be spoken to and interacted with, and what's kind of where do you land on that? What's your philosophy about the fundamentals that we have to look at in a marketing campaign in general?
Yeah, it's a great question, a great point for today. AI has enabled a lot of content out there. I would say a lot of that content is not very good and not very helpful.
Right.
So I think to your point, we are talking to people. It's not just trying to get, some sort of piece of content out in the market. It has to be something that, shows someone how you're going to help them. And I think, speaking authentically and truthfully kind of to a business scenario is really what people want.
Yeah. And then what about when business is getting ready to start the pay-per-click campaigns? What do they need to have in line in order to get the most value out of that?
Yeah. So, I always tell people before you spend $1 in paid advertising, and, we do a ton of paid advertising on Google, on LinkedIn, on Meta. There's a couple of things you really need to nail down. First is your target audience, and really, really specifically your target audience. What is, a person's problem that you're going to solve? So get that down to the job title, the industry, what they're doing in their day-to-day work, where your product comes in and helps them. And then the second is the messaging. So like we were just saying, speaking authentically about what your product does to solve problems in the market. I think that's what people want to know. So, don't spend any money before you know exactly who your audience is and exactly what you want to say to them.
Yeah, and then what kind of structure are you seeing that's working right now in terms of ads? One of the traditionals from the radio days, if we can even believe there was such a time, was this kind of problem, solution, agitate, call to action. What are you seeing in your client work?
Yeah, so I think when we're talking to our B2B clients, we will kind of start with search, because even though Google is really changing the way it runs its platform over time, if you can find someone who is searching for something really specific that your product answers, that's probably the first place you want to be, just because someone is calling out that they have a problem that they want solved.
Right.
Now, a lot of times that's not the case, and a B2B search and a B2C search can be somewhat similar. So in that case, we'll start to move to LinkedIn. And what we love about LinkedIn is you can get so granular with your targeting. You can target by industry, job title, company size, member attributes, the groups they're in, their interests. There's so much to go on that you can find the person who will be the right fit for your product. So first start out by saying, okay, at least I'm talking to the right person. You can always test messaging. You can test different ad formats, ad strategies, but first make sure you're actually talking to the person who is in your target audience, who has a chance to buy your product.
I like that. That is, we'd call that fundamental, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that's the very basics.
Yeah. And then I guess, where are you seeing some of the best results right now out of those different platforms that you listed?
Yeah, LinkedIn's been really good. One example that we've been doing is, this is kind of where we're making AI work for us in a really specific way. It's helping us write white papers where we'll basically get down to an industry and a job title, and we'll work with our clients on figuring out, what's the problems that person's facing, what's the industry landscape. It can be anything from customer pain points to regulatory environment, but we get kind of down to those basic facts that we need. And then we have AI help us write a first draft of the white paper. So it gets that out there. We'll go through with our clients to edit it, and then only serve that to the person's job title who's in the white paper. So if it's for CFOs in the chemical industry, we will only target CFOs in the chemical industry, and we'll try to give them something valuable. That's really what we want to do in our kind of early lead gen is give someone something valuable.
And so that's a top of the funnel call to action is download this white paper about current topics, essentially trends or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good kind of top of funnel, mid funnel sort of strategy that we've been seeing some success with.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then are you continuing to follow? Are you doing follow me campaigns with people also to kind of keep them in that little bubble?
Yeah, definitely. So, having a full funnel strategy, super important in B2B. You're dealing with really long sales cycles a lot of the time. So, we'll kind of use that first step to capture an email address. And sometimes we'll run the CRM campaigns for our clients. Sometimes they run them themselves, but we tell them, make sure you're making the most of these leads, that you have drip campaigns that are going to them, that are talking about the benefits of your product regularly. And then on the ad side, we can kind of retarget them based off the content they downloaded for more. Usually we'll use social proof after that. So we'll use a customer endorsement, and we'll start to try to move them to talk to the sales team for our client after they've kind of demonstrated that initial interest.
So I know industry standards are saying it's like 10 to 15 touches and about 6 hours of self-education. What are you finding in your campaigns right now?
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely seeing that. We're needing kind of 6 to 10, 12 frequency just on LinkedIn to kind of get those clicks, get the initial, lead form submissions. And then that is pretty consistent with what our clients see across, touch points across the whole marketing ecosystem, is that 10, 15 before someone's willing to talk to sales. But it is, it's a really interesting time, because I think you can give people enough information that hopefully when they talk to sales, they're really in the details about like the technical aspects of the product versus having to get, the bigger, what does this do for me questions out of the way
Right.
already.
Yeah. And then I guess, how are you dealing with the different generations? Because we got boomers, X, millennials, and Zs all on buying committees. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. I think we try to talk to the buying committee not really as much by age, but just by function. So, we feel like if someone's in finance and, they're 60 or they're 25, they're probably still going to want the same things. They're going to want their job to be easier on a day-to-day basis. They're going to want to save money, and they're going to want to save time. So we always try to frame in those ways versus kind of going more demo based, age sort of things. I think where it can be a little interesting is when you get into different channels. So, we haven't done a ton of marketing on LinkedIn, but I think if you start to, on TikTok, but I think if you start to look at like the younger demos, that could be a place where as those generations are coming up and, getting into higher positions, maybe more B2B kind of moves over there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, kind of the oldest of the Zs right now, I think 29, 30, somewhere in there. So we have a lot of success with that, with TikTok for direct consumer right now. But it will be interesting to see if there's a business shift onto it or not.
Yeah. I think another kind of interesting place is Reddit. It's it's hard to do because I think people really want authenticity on Reddit. But I think it's doable if you are. I think you actually want to be relatively upfront about what you're doing. Of like, we're giving you information and we're going to try to make it valuable. Yes, this is marketing. Like, we're not trying to hide that it's marketing, right? But it's actually like, we're just trying to give you something that we think you'll find valuable.
Yeah, I think that's a smart way to do it most of the time. Well, what does your personal tech stack look like for you to help you get work done that's AI based right now?
Yeah. So we have within our own workflow, we've built some tools that just kind of help us do things faster and also kind of add capabilities we didn't used to have. We've built a really strong kind of research tool. So that's kind of leads into the white papers we were talking about earlier is, we're able to identify those industry trends, regulatory changes, customer pain points, and bring those to the clients versus, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we would kind of need to ask that from our clients of like, fill out an onboarding sheet or something like that, which isn't a great experience for them first time. So just I think it's really important that you're utilizing AI for something like really specific to your business versus a broad kind of AI platform that does a lot of things for a lot of people but isn't specialist in anything. So research tool is a big way that we're able to do that, and there's also a lot of automation we've built to building campaign structures in Google. So we'll start with a seed keyword, it'll build out a whole campaign, then we can kind of upload that into Google Ads. But in all of these, we really try to look at what's the strengths of AI, what's the strengths of humans, how do we marry those two together? Because I think there can be like a tendency or a risk of just relying too much on AI, where I think you always need the human touch in there to make it.
Yeah, I agree with you. You still got to have the human in the loop. Maybe that won't always be the case, but at least for the foreseeable future, that's how it is for sure. What about you?
Definitely.
Are you a Claude guy? Are you Chat GPT? What do you like to use when you've got work to do?
Yeah, I've primarily done ChatGPT. We test a lot of the different models. Generally, we found ChatGPT winning on most of them when it's like content text based sort of like operations we're trying to get it to do. But for each of the tools we build, we do try to experiment with each of the models to make sure, we're picking the one that's really giving us the best output. Um, on one of our tools, we have kind of ChatGPT running the like the initial text, and then another LLM editing
Nice.
it. So we found like that to be, for that particular item, that was a good
Yeah, that's smart.
flow. So
I love it.
yeah, so I think they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and you can where you can
Yeah,
too.
and then I like that we're using as a double checker. Sometimes I'll run three at the same time and see which one gives me the best results. Right, same prompt.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, talk to me a little bit about what you consider to be MQL and the KPIs. We'll just throw a lot of acronyms. What's a marketing qualified lead based on the key performance indicators for you and your clients?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this really comes back to generating quality pipeline, not just top of funnel leads. So we make sure that in all of our campaigns, we tie our customers, our client CRMs to our campaigns. So we can see, in this particular LinkedIn campaign we were running, we had 20 leads, 10 of them were marketing qualified and 5 were sales qualified and 3 of them became customers. Because you really need that visibility, or else you're not going to know which ones are successful if you're just reporting on leads.
And they tend to get lost anyway if the client's tracking them.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure the system is very clean, crisp. It's all tied together, and that's how you can enables us to optimize really.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and the sales is the way we all get paid, so we have to stay focused on that.
Yeah, exactly. We need to make the sales teams and the marketing teams happy.
Well, what's next for you and the agency? There are new offers on board soon, or what's going on in the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah. So we always offer a free audit of kind of your programs now, and we will tell you honestly if you're doing a good job or if we think we can help. The last thing we want to do is take on a client we're not going to be able to help because they're already doing a great job. So we always have that going on. I think we're at a pretty interesting point in time, as with AI in general, and it's marketing is going to continue to change, and it's going to change pretty quickly. So our big focus is making sure we're ahead of that. And the days of you being of just having an organic rank on Google of number 1 and that's all you need, like those are going quickly. Google's replacing that inventory. There's so much content out there. So I think there's so much more needed from social proof, from just having just being an authentic and helpful brand, that we're trying to move our clients there, to make sure everything they're doing on the marketing side is both focusing on the human of being helpful and authentic, also focusing on the optimization towards showing up in LLMs, because that's kind of the next SEO, and I think there's a bit more we can do without having to have full control of someone's website to influence that now. So I think it's a really interesting time for marketers, and it's I think everyone's kind of figuring a lot out together. But there's a big opportunity out there to kind of shift towards what marketing is going to look like in a few years versus what it looked like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think the generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization is fascinating. We've seen for the first time in a long time Google's share drop under 90%, and there's a big shift that's happening. So
yeah, and we were looking at a client of ours the other day. They've had their organic impressions go up by 20% year over year, but the clicks dropped by 50% year over year. So, that is just Google is taking that real estate at the top of the page. They're making it AI summaries. They're pulling in all these different inventory sources from, their new product offerings. And, it's a different world right now on Google's homepage and, where people are looking.
Yeah. Well, what are you kind of the top one or two things that we can do to stay relevant for those shopping engines?
Yeah, I think positive reviews, the LLMs place a big importance on, what people are saying about your brand. So, encouraging your happy customers to leave you reviews on review sites, engaging in any kind of chat about your brand on places like Reddit. That's another one that LLMs, mention a lot. Those sorts of things will help with your LLM optimization.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, I appreciate your time, Doug. And if people want to get in touch with you and have a conversation with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can go to our website, contrastedmarketing.com, fill out the form, or just email info@contrastedmarketing.com.
All right. Well, I'm grateful for your time, and thank you for some great insights.
Yeah, thanks so much, Emmanuel. I really enjoyed it.
Well, there it is, the ever dynamic world of digital marketing, all the way to answer engines, but the fundamentals remain the same. We have to talk to humans, present some type of a solution to something that they have to solve in their life, and make it as frictionless as possible. And then also in the B2B world, giving hours of content so that people can build a sense of connection with us as a provider, and in many different forms. So I hope you found value today in the episode. I'm going to encourage you again to go and find some AI tools and get some time back from the administration of your business, your marketing department, or other areas. And with that time, continue to upskill, to spend some of that time with your friends and your family, and to get outside and be in nature, disconnected from the computer. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll